Hi, I'm Chloe. I'm one of the interns at Pencilish, and this is me doing some concept stuff for the show WarPigs. It's in development right now, and we're trying to figure out the characters. So I was doing some costuming. This is after we had already done a lot of kind of sketching and development for the overall look of each character. So I'm going over a pre-existing drawing I had done of this little guy, Hamwise. I really liked the way that I had the head shape, so I wanted to keep that, but I kind of refigure out the body, the best pose to display the different outfits I'm gonna try. So for him, he's the protagonist, and he's younger, he's less experienced, so I wanted his clothes to be like kind of hand-me-downs, a little rattier. So in his description, what we have for him is that he's got a green cloak, and that's like the important part, but I thought it would be good for him to have like a little tunic sort of shirt. So I do 8 different costumes for each character, and so I have patches in a couple of them. I thought the patches helped it feel a little worn and older. I also liked having the little X's for little ties or string or whatever. I felt like that helped it feel, because the era of this show, the overall feeling is kind of medieval, kind of like fantasy almost, because there are these pigs that have to defend their farm from like the creatures in the forest. So they get all armored up. You'll see later some of them have like genuine armor. Hamwise, because he's just a little guy, he does not have the big armor outfit, but he's got all those cloaks. So this next character I start to draw, this is Porkchop. He's the big guy. He's kind of like the shield, and so when we had worked on his designs earlier, we liked him very, very round, rotund, to really get that size. And so I stopped working on him right there, because sometimes when I try to draw something and I feel like it's not working, I move on to the next thing. So for Porkchop there, I had started to do his armor and I just didn't know where to go with it. So I moved on to Sneaks. She's one of the other characters. She's kind of like a rogue sort of character, you know, if you know like D&D classes, that's like the vibe I get from her. So she also has a cloak, but I wanted it to feel different from Hamwise, because I don't want there to be 2 small pigs with cloaks, because they're both on the smaller side. I didn't want them to get mixed up and confused, so I liked the idea of Sneaks having the cloak kind of parted off to the side, like on the shoulder where it goes across. So like those first 2, they've got that, whereas I liked the idea of Hamwise having his cloak part in the middle. But I mess around with several cloaks, so Sneaks also has some that parts in the middle. She's got one that's like a little shoulder cape cloak. But for her, I wanted to differentiate her from Hamwise, because she's older, she's more experienced. She's been out fighting, so she knows what she's doing. So I wanted her to feel like cool, but I still wanted her outfit to feel worn, because she's been doing stuff. So she's got some stains. I think I did some patches. And then I go in to do color. I wanted to explore with colors before I moved on to the other ones. So for each character, I did 4 base skin color ideas and then just duplicated those for the lower row. And then I started messing around with, she's supposed to have a dark purple cape, like midnight purple, but I didn't want it to be so dark that it wasn't recognizable as purple. So I kind of experiment with some a little more red, some a little more blue, but all of them still like a moderately dark purple. I really like the purple in the bottom left-hand corner, and that was a lot of people's favorites. They liked that purple as well. And then I move on to Hamwise, his colors. He's the classic little pink pig, but there are so many pink pigs, you know? So I was really trying to think about what different pinks are there, what could make him not your average, like, go-to pink pig. So the first two are a little more like yellow toned almost. I like the second skin tone that's like almost kind of peachy orangey, as opposed to like the more cartoonish pink ones. And so he's got, I go back and forth very quickly. So moving on from him, next I'm working on Gore. He's one of the other heavily armored guys, and so he's wider, he's thicker, stronger, you know. So I'm just getting the base sketch down. And so, as I already said, for most of these, like, I already had reference for what he was going to look like. We'd already done developmental stuff, so I'm not making up the character designs in this moment. I'm just figuring out the costuming. So after I drew him, I was like, let's go back to Pork Chop. So I kind of revise him a little, make his head a little smaller. And so from there, I'm back to Gore. I forget that I went back and forth so much. Because, like, when I'm not feeling the groove of something, I'm like, let's try something else and see if I can be productive over here. Just to be more efficient. So, for armor, I'm not as familiar with a lot of different types of armor. So I was looking at a lot of reference, like on Pinterest and stuff to try to get some idea for armor, looking at other art, looking at historical armor, looking at, like, you know, that sort of thing. But I keep the general idea of like a belt, a chest plate, a shoulder pad, while also trying to think, like, can these be simplified? Because they haven't told me how this is going to be animated, if it's going to be 2D, if it's going to be Toon Boom, if it's going to be CG, I don't know. So I don't know how like simple I should keep these. So I was trying to think in overall shapes or like pieces, so that if it needs to be simplified, I know we have the chest plate, we have the belt, we have the shoulder plate, and that's like the gist of it. And so I was trying to like still give him, like, I didn't want it to be just like a gray. So I have like some tone variation, and like there's like a warmer, like kind of almost brown, or there's like a cooler like gray, but like trying to like figure out what works. And what really threw me off is his armor is supposed to be red. And when I think of armor, I think of metal, I think of like silver, or like, you know, gray, or like iron, you know? So I don't really think of red when I think of armor. So I was trying to figure out, how can I make it red and still have it feel like armor? And there is red armor out there. I was looking at reference, but it's just not what first comes to mind. So it was kind of weird to think about it. But once I got the colors in, I feel like it worked. So moving on to Pork Chop, like I said, he's got those big shoulder plates because he's like the shield of the group. He is much bigger than any of them, and instead of having a weapon like the others, because they each have like their own like weapon, he has a big shield. And so I wanted his armor to like show that he's the tank, he's the defensive unit, he's gonna be able to take the brunt of the damage, while the others are gonna be faster and they're gonna be able to like fight, you know? So with a lot of these, I was also trying to think in pieces, but I liked the idea of the shoulder pads kind of coming up around his head to give him like a silhouette of just like armor like everywhere, you know, protecting his head, like just like very much big armor, oversized armor. But I didn't want it to be so big that he looked small in it. I wanted it to look like it fit him, and I feel like I was successful with that, where he's not being swallowed in it, but it is big armor. So for his colors, we didn't really have a definite, this is the color that he is. He's just a big pig. So I tried a couple, because there are so many different colors pigs can be that you don't think about, because when it comes to like cartoon or drawing pigs, you always think like, oh, pink, that's the color. But there are all sorts of pigs. So I was trying to figure out what works for him. And I tried the brown, but I think the brown was unsuccessful. It just looks kind of weird on him. I think that some of the like peach tones work a little nicer, or kind of that like light pink, the third one. I'm just looking through them all real quick, labeling them, seeing them all at the same time. But those are the costumes. It's a lot of fun. Thanks for watching.
If you like what you just saw, please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel, Pencilish Studios.